My name is Sharon Milliman, and I died when I was struck by lightning. This happened in 2005, and I was sitting on the back steps behind my house, and it had started to rain. And the man I was married to at the time, he was an electrician, and he had just got home from work. And I, I was talking on a cordless phone, and I asked him if it was okay to sit underneath the roof on the stairs and be on the cordless phone in the rain, and he told me it was okay. So I continued talking, and after he went in, it was about 5 minutes later, and I heard a loud crack. Um, well, there was thunder in the distance, and then all of a sudden there was a loud crack. And I saw the lightning bolt come out of the sky, and it hit my right arm. And after it hit me, it traveled underneath the house, and it blew the transformer that was in front of our house. And I immediately felt the searing, burning, agonizing pain. And then I just kind of popped up out of my body like peeling a banana, and I just peeled right up out of myself. And um, I went into my house. I didn't know I was dead. And I went into my house and I started walking around. And I walked into the kitchen and I looked, everything had this burnt gold look to it. And I looked at the curtains by my kitchen sink, and they weren't my curtains. And then I went into the dining room and I noticed that the furniture wasn't my furniture. And I was really confused. I didn't know what was going on. And so I went from the um, dining room into the living room, and that furniture wasn't my stuff either. And I couldn't find my husband. I couldn't, I didn't know where anybody was. I was, apparently there by myself. And I heard this old time radio show playing. It sounded like something from back in the Waltons. And I couldn't figure out I'd never heard that sound before, except on TV, and I didn't know where that sound was coming from. So I was trying to find it, and I never could find it. And I started to panic because I knew that was my house. I could get around in it, but nothing in it was mine. And I didn't understand what was happening. And I started to get really, really upset. And just as I started to completely lose it, this huge, huge, formless, loving presence appeared and just filled me full of this amazing love that I've never felt in my whole life. And it was like he just wrapped me in this pink blanket, and just he held on to me. And I knew that presence was God, but he was just bigger than my house. He was huge. And then all of a sudden, there were these beautiful pink and gold clouds. And he was with me, and we started traveling sideways. We didn't go up, we didn't go down, we went sideways through these beautiful pink and gold clouds. They were so magnificent. Then once we got to the end of the clouds, there was this magnificent garden. And I was just, I mean, I had no idea what was going on, but this place was so beautiful, and the love was just more than I don't have words to describe it. And so we were just at the very entrance of the garden, and these two young men stepped forward and greeted me. And at first I thought they were angels because they were dressed in this ivory, very expensive linen clothing. And then it hit me, oh my God, you're my two brothers who had died when they were babies. And they were fully grown men. And when they smiled, they looked just like my dad when my dad was a young man. And so we had this wonderful family reunion, and it was just, the tears and hugs, and but I was only a year old when the first one died, and 2 years old when the second one died. And so it was so beautiful. And they actually were the ones that told me that I had died, because I still at that point didn't know that I was dead. I had no idea what was going on. And I thought, okay, I can do this. This is okay. This is not what I thought it would be. This is okay. I can do this. So they were grinning, and it was just, it was so, I kept telling them, oh my gosh, Dad will be so proud of you. I wish that he could see you because he would just be so happy. And so Michael was on one side, Stephen was on the other, and then this big loving presence was behind me at this point. And after they had told me I died, it was time for my life review. So everything had steps to it. And everything was happening so fast. I mean, there was no sense of time whatsoever. And so they're standing with me, and then a whole bunch of other people gathered around me. And they were from all different time periods. They were, and I am assuming they're relatives that I didn't know. But I felt like I knew them, but I didn't know where I knew them from. And they just loved me. And there were some women that were in these gorgeous gowns and men in suits, and then people in regular clothes. And so it was just like having another family reunion. And they were all gathered, and there was nobody there that was over the age of 25 or 30, early 30s. And everybody was kind of glowing from the inside out, and people were healthy and strong and beautiful, and it was like I was just in awe of everything that I was seeing. And the colors in the garden were so rich and so vibrant, and there were colors that I'd never even seen before. I didn't have a word for what that color was. And I heard birds, and the sky was just a perfect blue, but it was cool and comfortable. And so as we're standing there and all these people are loving me, and I'm just feeling so loved and so accepted, I thought, okay, if I'm dead, do I still have a body? So I looked down the front of me, and I could see that I still had a body. My hair was coming down the front of me, and I saw my hair, and I saw my clothes that I was wearing. I saw my feet, and I could feel the coolness of the grass on my feet. And I thought, wow, this is like when I was a little girl, and I used to go out and play after my bath time or whatever. That's what it felt like. And then, so as I'm marveling at all of this, and everybody kind of got quiet, and it was like, okay, something's about to happen. And there was it was like watching a screen, an old-fashioned movie on an old-fashioned movie reel. And so I'm standing there with everybody around me, and they're just loving me. And I saw my whole life and it was black and white, and it was really fast, and then it was over really quick. But it was everything from the time I was born until the day, that moment that I died. Well, I didn't know what to do with it. And it was just over that quick. And it was like, okay, something is missing. I don't know what it is. And my life must have been really boring because it's over so quick, And then I asked my brothers, I said, excuse me, I said, what am I missing? And they just grinned at me. And I thought, really? You're going to pull the brother card on me now? But they didn't really say anything. And what was missing is that my whole life I thought we were supposed to judge ourselves, that God would judge us. But he didn't. He just loved me. He didn't judge me at all. And I didn't judge me because I didn't know I was supposed to. And so it was just over so fast. And I thought, okay, well, it is what it is. And I didn't feel bad, or I felt loved, totally and completely loved. So at that point, I realized that God doesn't judge us. We judge ourselves. And I didn't do that. And so there was nothing more. And so then after that was over, I heard a male voice. And he said, what you put out into the universe will come back to you. And I had never heard those words before. So I didn't know what that really meant. And then it was like being hooked up to a giant IV bottle of knowledge. Um, like I was being infused with all this divine knowledge. And it was like bam, 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 one thing after another. And I was like, oh my God, it blew me away. I mean, it was like who God was, how he put the world together, how we came to be. And it was all of these questions that people have been asking since the beginning of time. And it was like, oh my gosh, you are so cool, God. And I kept saying that over, and you're so awesome. And I said, we make you so complicated, and you're not complicated at all. You're very simple. And I was just in awe. I was like, oh my, you were so awesome. And I just kept saying that over and over. And then after that, he was letting me know what those words meant that he said to me. And what I understood from him showing me things and through this divine knowledge was that, if we put out love and kindness and caring and compassion, that's what we're going to get back. But if we put out lying and cheating and stealing and all of those other things, that's what we're going to get back. And we don't know how or when, because it's kind of like a boomerang. When you throw a boomerang, it goes out, it spins, it gets faster, gains momentum, and comes back and smacks you. And you don't know when it's going to come back, but it does. And so that's kind of what, he was showing me that those words meant, because I'd never heard them before. And I thought, wow, I don't want to get hit in the head with a boomerang. I'm going to be really good. And so then, after that, my brothers were walking with me further into the garden, and I heard this. Oh, the birds were just singing so loud. It was so beautiful. And I heard music, and I learned that everything has a vibration. So I call it big music. This is what it sounded like, big orchestra type music. And so it was like the birds have a vibration, the flowers have a vibration, each color has a different vibration. The rocks, there was a stream that had rocks in it, and there was a waterfall, and it sparkled like diamonds in the sunlight. It was so beautiful. But even the water has a different sound. The rocks have a different sound, everything. And you put all of those different vibrational sounds together, and that is the most magnificent choir that I have ever heard in my entire life. And everything, even the stones, were singing praises to God. And it was so magnificent. I've tried so hard to find music on, and I love to listen to beautiful music, but I've come close a couple times to hearing it. But it was so magnificent. And so I was enjoying that, and I was trying to find music like that I could listen to while I was, here. But I came close, but I couldn't find the exact music. It was so magnificent. And so then after that, as we were continuing, there was this glorious city that was at the end of the, at the end of the garden, and I could see the buildings. I could see, especially buildings on the outskirts of the city, and I noticed that there was a wall around it, and inside the city there were like healing buildings and pools, beautiful pools of healing water. And I learned that was places where people go who die traumatic deaths or murdered or suicide or whatever. They go to this place. It's like a spiritual healing hospital, I guess, is what you would call it. There was another building that I saw that were babies and children go, and they're loved and cared for. And I saw children, different ages, and And they were all being loved and cared for and playing, and they were all fine. They were just beautiful. And there were rolling hills and plains and valleys and all of these beautiful places where animals go. And I noticed there was another building that I saw that it was a library, and I call it the Hall of Knowledge. And I'm not sure that's what it's called, but that's what I call it because it was beautiful mahogany wood and marble floors, and there must have been a bazillion books in this place. Every subject you could possibly imagine was in this place, and it was like books from top to bottom and ladders that move around that you can climb up to get the books or whatever. I've never seen a library like that in my life. And then I saw two houses. There was one that was sitting on a bluff, and there was an ocean below it. And it was a beautiful house. It was made of some kind of stone that turned colors and not vibrated, but sparkled in the light, you know. And then that one was sitting on the bluff, and that I could see the ocean waves crashing up against the rocks. And then a little ways down, there was it looked like English cottage, and then behind it were these beautiful rose gardens that were just magnificent. And then I saw a field stone wall that had pink roses growing up and over it, and I love pink roses and castle walls, and so I was like, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. I want that house, and I want that wall in my house. And it was just so magnificent, and my brothers were still with me at this time, and I was just in awe of the beauty that I was seeing, and the love that I was feeling, and the acceptance. Had never felt that in my life, and it was so, I soaked it all up. And then I saw there was a grove of trees over in the corner, just just off from where those houses were, and I saw Jesus coming out of the grove of trees. And he walked up to me, and he said, I love you, I'm with you, and don't be afraid. That was my first indication that I was going to be coming back, but it went right over my head. I was just like, okay. you know, and when he appeared, I didn't know where my brothers went. They disappeared. And I only had eyes for Jesus. I have no idea where they went. So he walked with me over to this beautiful wooded glen, and it was so beautiful. The light was streaming through the trees, and there were pine cones and pine needles all over the ground, and these little blue flowers that I could see. And there was a log laying there. And so I sat down on the log, and when I did, Jesus walks away, and there's a man sitting on the other end of the log, and I knew that man was God. And he was in a robe and, sandals, and he had a stick, and he was kind of doodling in the dirt. And we kind of chit-chatted for a minute, and then he said to me, what would you do if it was just me and you? And I was like, what? And he said, what would you do if it was just me and you? And I said, I don't know what you mean. I had no idea. So he kind of grinned, and he said, well, come with me. And so we got up, and we walked further into the wooded glen, and there was a clearing. And he kind of waved his hand, and when he did that, it was like opening up the sky or unzipping the sky. And I could see the vastness of the universe. I saw stars and spinning planets and rainbow-colored gases. And I thought, oh my God, this is huge. There were no houses, no trees, no people, no cars, no homes, nothing. It was just all of that. And I said, God, if it's all of this and just me and you, I said, you wouldn't like me after the first 10 minutes. I'd chalk your ear off and ask all these questions, and you wouldn't like me very much. So I don't think so. And then he threw his head back and he laughed. And when he did, his eyes just sparkled like diamonds. He had bluest eyes. And when he laughed, I thought, I started laughing too because his laugh was so infectious, and it was like, oh my gosh, who tells God no, you know? And so we went back and we sat back on the log, and he asked me again. He said, now what would you do if it was just me and you? No parents, no husband, no children, no friends, just me and you. I still didn't know how to answer that. I mean, I just kind of went over my head again still. And I'm, there's this beautiful tree that was in front of me. And I came out with something that I don't know why I did, because I've never, I told him, I said, in the book of the Quran, your 100th name is God is everywhere, God is nowhere, and God is in me. He said, yeah, that's right. But I'd never read the Quran. I've never seen it. I don't know anything about it. So I shocked myself when I said it, but he said, yes, that's right. And then I looked at this beautiful oak tree that was in front of me. It was huge. It was old as time, and I could see the intricate detail of the bark, and I could see the roots beneath the ground, and I could see how they were pulling the nutrients from the soil, and it was going up through the tree and into the leaves. And I could see that the leaves clean the air, and we breathe the air, so everything is connected to everything else. And so I said, God, you made this tree. You are in this tree. So when I see this tree, I see you. And he said, yeah, that's right. Then I started thinking about my parents. And I said, God, you made my parents. You are in my parents. So I started thinking about my parents, and I said, God, you made my parents. You are in my parents. So when I see my parents, I see you. He said, yeah, that's right. And I was like, oh golly. Well, then I started thinking about my children, and I said the same thing about them. You made them, you're in them, so when I see them, I see you. And then when I started thinking about people who had hurt me, who had very cruel, and I felt pain, and I said, but God, you made those people. You are in those people. So when I see those people, I see you. And he said, yeah, that's right. He said, now I have a question for you. I thought, oh, golly. And he said, when you look in the mirror, what do you see? And I didn't really have a proper answer. My normal answer would have been just me. Not much, just me. But that's not what you say to God, the creator of everybody. You just don't say that. So I said, God, you made me. You are in me. So when I look in the mirror, I see you. And he was so happy. He was like, yeah, that's right. That's right. And his eyes were sparkling again, and he was just so happy. And what he was telling me and what he was teaching me was that he doesn't make junk. He doesn't make mistakes. And I wasn't a mistake. He had a perfect reason for making me, and that he loved me. And all of my adult life, I'd been told, you're fat, you're ugly, you're stupid, you're this, you're that, and I was buying into it. And he didn't want me to believe that, because he doesn't see me that way. He doesn't see anybody that way. And so that's why he was telling me, I love you, and I don't make junk, and I don't make mistakes, and you're not junk, and you're not a mistake. And that, for me, that was huge. Just running around in my head, it was huge. And then after that, there were two angels that appeared, and they were beautiful women in these beautiful gowns, and they didn't have wings, and they weren't flying in the air and all that. They were just beautiful, beautiful people. And they came up to me, and they took me to this lake. And the lake was so serene and so beautiful. There were flowers all around it, and it was just as smooth as glass. And I looked into the water, and I could see the earth below. And I could see things happening. It was like future world events, but those future world events are things that are happening now. And I didn't really know what to do with all of it. And um, I didn't know why they showed it to me, but they did. And then once that was over, um, I was back in my body. And if there was a conversation about whether I was to stay or go, it probably wasn't a good one because I don't remember that part of it. But I did. I came back to my body, and I was laying on the grass next to the stairs, and there were char marks on the concrete stairs. And I ended up having medical treatment. I have a right bundle branch block in my heart, and I have seizures from the lightning strike. Um, it was, I couldn't tell you how long that I was actually there, dead in the backyard. But because there was no time in heaven, I couldn't. It seemed like I was there. I was probably only there for minutes, but it seemed like I was there for weeks and weeks and weeks. So much happened. I saw so much and learned so much, but there was just no time like we have here. You know, days, minutes, hours. It wasn't like that at all there. So that's what happened. The definition of an NDE is when, not when someone nearly dies from being hit by a car or, and they don't really die. An NDE is when you actually die and you leave your body and you go somewhere and then you come back. You spend time somewhere, you know, in another realm, heaven, hell, whatever it is. And then you come back to your body. And that's an NDE, what an NDE is. Proof of an NDE would be like, um, I know of a woman who had an experience. She had an NDE, and she left her body, and she saw a red shoe on top of the roof of the hospital. And when she came back to her body, she told someone about this red shoe that she had seen on top of the building. And one of the hospital workers went to find out if that really was there, and it was in fact there. And there was another instance where the woman was having she had a brain aneurysm, and she, um, they had to use a specific kind of saw to drill into her head to take care of this. And they had to cool her body down to a point where there was no heartbeat. And they put her very, very deep under anesthesia. And an hour after she was put on anesthesia, very, very deep, she saw this instrument that looked, she described it as a, like the shape of an electric toothbrush. Well, the surgeon, when she came out of the surgery, she told the surgeon that she had seen this instrument. And he said, there's absolutely no way you could have seen that instrument, because that instrument was kept in a very sanitary, secure box and not even taken out until it was time to use it. And you had been under anesthesia for over an hour. Yet she was able to describe this particular device that he was using to take care of the aneurysm. So those are like what you call verifiable near-death experiences. Suicide is not the right thing to do, because we're all here for a purpose and a reason, and we may not know what that reason is. We may not understand because we don't see. There's like a veil over our eyes, and we don't see the farther picture, how many lives we're going to touch while we're here, and how. And there are a lot of people in the world who suffer from depression and despair and fear and worry. And when you die in a place like that, it's a very dark place to be in. And when you die in a place like that, you're going to go to a dark place, because you're either going to work your stuff out here, or you're going to work your stuff out there. And working your stuff out here is a lot easier than having to work it out there. And when people commit suicide, they don't it's painful, and they are in a very dark place. But what they don't understand is that their actions are make huge ramifications for other people. And all of our choices, all of our decisions affect not just us, but affect other people. It's like throwing a pebble into a pond, and the ripples just go out and out and out. So doing something like that, it's not going to save you from having to face your stuff. You're still going to have to face it, whether it's here or there. And what you hold bound here, you're going to take there. So it's better to work it out here. When we spoke, when God and I spoke, when I spoke with my brothers, when I spoke with everybody, I was using my mouth because I didn't know any different. And it looked to me like they were using their mouth too, but I think that was just for my own benefit. I don't think it was that way. I think it was more telepathic, because it was like as soon as I thought something, bam, there was the answer. Even though I could see their lips moving, I'm not sure that that's what they were really doing. I think it was more telepathic. I learned that when we die, there really is no death, so there's no need to be afraid of it. We still go on. The part of you that makes you who you are still exists. You still have a body. I did. I looked like me. I felt like me. I glowed from inside out. I thought like me. I didn't change. You know, I was still me. So when your physical body dies, that there's a special part of you that goes on. That doesn't die. It's only the physical body that dies. And we come here to experience, and life is beautiful. And there's so many gifts all around, roses and butterflies and, you know, clouds and sun and loving family and friends and people that you can touch. And all of that is so important. It's so beautiful. And we come here to experience all of that. And so we have to make it as beautiful as we can. And then when we go back to where we came from, then we experience even more beauty. Sorry.
Did the NDE give you a sense of responsibility?
Yes, my NDE gave me a sense of responsibility. I feel like I need to let people know that God is real, that heaven is real, and that we're loved, and that we are so important to everything God created. It doesn't matter how little we might be in the vastness of all that He's created, the universe, multi-universes, and so on. We are so intricately important to everything He has created. And that He doesn't make mistakes. It's all by divine purpose, divine plan. And He loves us so much, and I try to tell people that when you don't feel loved, stop and think about this. He thinks about you every single moment of every single day. And if He stopped thinking about you for one instant, you would just poof, cease to exist as if you never were. And so you have to know how deeply loved you are. Because to be in the divine mind of God 24/7 all the time, because you're still here, that's so important. People need to know that no matter what's going on in their life, no matter how hard it might be, and it is hard sometimes, we have to hold on to the fact that we're loved and that we're supposed to be here and that our life has meaning and purpose and that we are not mistakes. Forgiveness is important because it sets us free. If someone does something to you and you're hurting very deeply inside and you're holding anger, that anger is hurting you. It's not hurting the other person. The other person may be going on with their life as if nothing had ever happened. So if you can find it in your heart to forgive them, then you are not being held prisoner. You know, these people are not living rent-free in your mind and in your heart. So you're set free from that chain of whatever it was that caused that pain in you. So forgiveness really isn't about the other person. It's more about you and how you can be free of the hurt, the bitterness, the anger, whatever it is. NDEs are different for everybody because, and all of them are real and valid because every one of us is very unique and individual. And so the, the NDEs are geared towards the individual person. So if you were to have an NDE, it would may be like mine or be similar to mine, but it won't be exact. Nobody's is exact. There are common threads from each NDE, but they're not all the same. There are common threads. You know, people come back and they're not afraid to die anymore. They've felt that love. That's whether they saw the light or whether they actually saw God. Yes, they're common threads. People come back and they're no longer afraid of death. Um, they know that they do go on. They come back and their lives are changed, completely changed. Um, there are many after effects to having a near-death experience, and so those are pretty much. I mean, everybody has different things, but um, they're in the NDE community. They're commonly known what some of those are, but NDEs are a God thing. It's not a drug thing. It's not a dying brain thing. It's a God thing. He's the one who picks and chooses who has NDEs and who doesn't, and what those NDEs are going to be, and they are very specific for each individual. Whether it's to change them or whether it's to come back and tell the world to change somebody's life here, even if it's just one person, it was worth it. I have been hurt by the people that don't believe. Um, when they tell me that my NDE, um, how could I sit and see the face of God? Because it says in the Bible, if you see the face of God, you'll burn up and die. I was already dead. And God showed me the face He wanted me to see. It's hurtful to me when people judge me and they don't believe, because they have no frame of reference for what that huge spiritual experience was. They didn't have one themselves, so they don't really understand. So it is hurtful, but you get through it.